one scene that I felt the most while watching, like trying to be in the seat of an audience, I would say scene 27. Of course, that's how we refer to it inside the production, but inside the story itself, that would be like towards the end, the resolution of sort of like a climax thing. It was amazing because the team really exceeded my expectation in delivering that scene. Like when I wrote it, I didn't imagine it would be that good. And I think it was a risky thing. Like sometimes in storytelling, in directing, we try to attempt for something that is not commonly done. In terms of editing, in terms of the visual cue, a lot of the things felt risky. Like we didn't know whether this could work, but I think it paid off. Like when I wrote it, I knew it would take some convincing to be able to deliver that scene, but I think the team did really well. Once they felt what the direction was going to be like, the things that they came up with, I think was really impressive, and I think it worked well. From the feedback that we get from the audience, I think we managed to deliver that scene successfully. There's so many things that was problematic. There's so many challenges, like you name it. Duration, of course, I think in any production, duration is a huge factor. And in our case, one thing is the duration of the movie, because we needed to keep it to that duration that we've sort of like committed to. One is because wanted to make sure it's not too long so that children are restless in the cinema. We wanted to make sure it's not too long so we can get a good amount of repeat in one day in the cinema, because if it's too long then you might have less screenings. We also needed to make sure we don't exceed too much, because every single minute added to the duration would mean adding more time to the production and money. And relatively 1 year and 8 months, while it sounds like a lot, relatively if you compare internationally a global production, a 3D, a computer animation pipeline, or rather even hand-drawn animation pipeline, the 1 year and 8 months is actually really tight, and we literally had to like work our bum off in order to make sure we were able to complete the movie. And then there's always, as an indie studio, while we do secure, like investments and grants, cash flow is always something that we struggle with. So we had to make sure we do enough servicing stuff to ensure that we get enough money. And infrastructure, hardware, software, throughout the first 3 quarters of the production, we were actually struggling with the lack of hardware capacity. It means we needed better machines, but we didn't have the money to spend for it up to like much later. But towards the end, the last I think 3-4 months was when we were really able to move at our best capacity kind of thing. And of course, I think creatively, in terms of story development, character development, there were a lot of things that we wanted to do, but it was a lot of learning process as well, because this is literally WAU's first feature-length film, right? We thought, we knew enough before going in, but while we were in the production, there were a lot of things that we needed to figure out. It took a long time to even lock the story and the characters. Believe it or not, the script only finalized about 3 months before the production ends. We started production much earlier. While we were in production, we were still figuring out the story and making tweaks and fixes. So you can imagine like the amount of stuff that don't go in the final film. So many things. I mean, I think I can go on like for hours just talking about what challenges we have. But those were some of the things that we had to deal with. It was a lot of learning. We just had to, it's an opportunity. So if you approach it with that mindset, I think you don't want the opportunity to pass, right? So whatever it takes, we had to figure it out. I think it's great. I mean, it's amazing to see that movies from our side of the world being able to make such a breakthrough, because like in Hollywood or in the Western film industry, you can see that they're looking for fresh ideas, that sometimes they even tap into our side of content, right? And sometimes not doing it properly, like changing the elements and offending people along the way. I feel it's an amazing breakthrough, and of course, yeah, it has always been part of the dream, right? Not just for our company, but also for the local animation industry to be able to make that kind of breakthrough. In terms of distribution, we are, because we work with Primeworks and they are handling our distribution, they're in talks with so many other countries to push the movie. Nothing that I can announce yet, but well, the series is in over 50 countries, so hopefully if we can get even half the amount of country to want to screen the movie, that would be amazing. Well, the demand is there. I mean, in our initial plan, when we first approached Primeworks, work on the partnership, there has always been a continuous plan. Like Ejen Ali is meant to go for at least another 2-3 seasons and at least another movie. But with such amazing feedback, I think we kind of have to look into speeding up, because a movie is sort of like a big event. Yeah, I don't think we can wait like more than 3-4 years before making another movie. So in the immediate future, we have to look into producing another season or another movie, not or, like another season, another movie. And as a studio, WAU, Ejen Ali is not the only project not the only IP, not the only content we want to create. So we're looking into hopefully getting another one out in the next year or two, in running in the back burner. I'm looking forward to announcing a new one soon. We've actually spoken to a couple of studios, toy makers from China, and they've shown like really strong interest. But I think due to the busyness of movie production the other day, I think we sort of like, took a step back from the conversation. It's no secret that China is a huge market. Yeah. I think it would be amazing to be able to get into China and tap into the resource that we can have access to there. Definitely, it's of course, if you ask me if we want to go to China. Well, having known the 3 studios that animation film that in a way dominated the film industry this year, I think it's a mindset since the beginning. I mean, I was formerly at Let's Go Park Production as well. It was the mindset of the desire to deliver the product regardless of what you can get your hands on. Means I think a lot of studios probably have a long-term plan, but of course there's always like the challenges of not having enough people, not having enough money. Just get a spark of opportunity is not easy. Like, I think the mindset of seizing the opportunity is just there. I mean, even with Monster and Bobo Boy, I've known Nizam a long time, and he's also a very relentless entrepreneur, relentless creative person, right? Like, we don't wait until everything is in place. Yeah, but of course, if we're talking about just this year, it's the 3 movies that are highlight. But over the last 10 years, the growth of the industry has been immense. You have to credit it to how the government have put focus into it, and all the companies and bodies and service providers that came in a way like complete the ecosystem, right? And of course the IHLs creating program, making more talents available. So I think as a nation, like once we set our eyes on the animation industry, I think a lot of things came together. And as an industry, the growth has been amazing. I mean, like I literally grew up through this time when animation was not seen as something that is possible, something that is credible. I mean, like, my father was worried when I wanted to go into animation, right? But now I think it's it has been proven. Just a couple of weeks ago, or was it last week, I have a child, 7-year-old, who loves painting. He does amazing illustration. He came to the studio with his grandmother. It's the kind of story, I mean, like, it's the kind of story you hear outside of Malaysia. Kids wanting to go into animation industry, and parents finally supporting the idea. Oh, my kid wants to do animation. So I think it's amazing. It's very helpful. I mean, when starting the series, we actually tried to set up internal facility, like a small render farm, so to speak. But I felt the impact wasn't that huge because to make a difference, I think you actually need a lot more nodes in order to be able to really boost the production. So we were moving at an okay pace, right? As long as we were able to catch up with the production timeline. But in production, that almost never happened. Like something will always go wrong, and you probably have to push back the time. So, and we saw that in trying to scale up, or rather even to maintain the facility, the licenses that you need to upgrade, it was a lot of investment. That was when we actually discovered Robust, right? And when we first tried it out, it blew us away. I mean, like, the speed was just amazing. And I think we started working with Robust during our second season, I think towards like halfway through the second season. And since then, we knew for certain like we would want to be working with Robust for the movie. So far, I think no complaints. It's been amazing. I think the assistance that we get has been prompt. So yeah, I think it was a good move. I think it was a really good decision for us to work with Robust, and I can't imagine delivering the movie without working with the Robust render farm. Aside from the general audience feedback, I think we've received some really good feedback from the fellow industry peers as well. And I think getting such feedback from your peers is actually really it makes us feel very validated, because it's not easy for people of other studios to give compliment to another, especially like when as industry players, you usually have much higher expectation, much higher taste in the works, because other people, normal audience, they wouldn't be able to tell the difference so much, right? They would feel that it looks good, and then they would suddenly say that we're as good as Pixar, when we know that we're like a long way to go. But to be validated by CG enthusiasts, I think it's been amazing. So we still could use more viewers, and people are literally saying that this movie is historical in the sense of Malaysian animation development. So I hope anyone who haven't seen it, please go watch.